After 4 years together, my girlfriend said, "I want to see other people." I said, "Cool, me too." She panicked. "Wait, that's not what I meant." But I was already gone. Sup, Reddit. My girlfriend of 4 years dropped the open relationship bomb on me. Thought I'd beg her to reconsider. Instead, I agreed immediately and started living my best life. She spiraled when she realized I wasn't her backup plan. Here's how it went down. I'm 28 male, and my life was pretty straightforward before this mess owned a decent 2-bedroom condo in a good neighborhood. Bought it 3 years ago when the market dipped. My dad taught me young. Own your space, build equity, don't throw money away on rent, watch too many of his buddies hit 50 still renting apartments. Nothing to show for decades of paychecks. I wasn't going to be that guy, saved aggressively through my early 20s, lived with roommates longer than I wanted to, drove a beat-up Honda Civic that should have been retired years earlier, but it all paid off when a foreclosure popped up in a neighborhood I'd been watching. The condo was my pride and joy. Bought it as a foreclosure for way under market value after the previous owner defaulted during a divorce. Bank was motivated to move it fast. I came in with cash for the down payment. 20%, no negotiation needed, and closed in 3 weeks. The place needed work, though. Previous owners had clearly stopped maintaining it once the marriage fell apart. Dated kitchen from the 90s, with laminate countertops and particle board cabinets. Bathrooms had that weird pink tile people thought was classy in 1987 carpet throughout that smelled vaguely of wet dog, despite being dry. Spent 8 months doing renovations myself, learning as I went. New kitchen cabinets from IKEA that I assembled in my living room over a long weekend. Instructions in Swedish, parts labeled in ways that made no sense, but I figured it out. Refinished the hardwood floors that were hiding under that nasty carpet. Rented a drum sander from Home Depot and went to town. Took 3 tries to get the technique right without leaving gouges. Updated both bathrooms with modern fixtures, white subway tile in the shower that's apparently trendy now, but mostly just looked clean to me. Even added custom built-in shelving in the living room for books and equipment. YouTube University taught me everything I needed to know. Watched hundreds of hours of home improvement videos, some guy named Steve teaching me how to properly hang drywall, another channel showing me the right way to grout tile so it doesn't crack. Made plenty of mistakes. Painted myself into corners twice. Had to redo electrical outlets when I realized I'd wired them backwards. Accidentally cut through a water line that required an emergency plumber visit at 9 p.m. on a Saturday. But every mistake taught me something, and by the end, I had a place I was genuinely proud of. My buddy Vincent would come over weekends to help with the bigger projects. Guy's a carpenter by trade, and would just shake his head at my amateur attempts before showing me the right way to do things. He'd arrive Saturday mornings with coffee and donuts, assess whatever disaster I'd created during the week, then patiently explain where I went wrong. Never made me feel stupid about it either. Just treated it like teaching an apprentice. We rebuilt my kitchen cabinets together after my first attempt resulted in doors that hung crooked and drawers that stuck. He showed me how to properly shim and level, how to check for square instead of assuming walls are straight. Vincent's been my best friend since college. We met freshman year when we were randomly assigned as roommates and somehow didn't kill each other, despite having completely opposite sleep schedules. He'd be up at 5 a.m. working on projects. I'd roll in at 2 a.m. from studying, but we made it work. He's the kind of friend who shows up with tools when you mention a project, not excuses. Straight shooter, no nonsense. Calls things exactly as he sees them. The type of guy who'll tell you when you're being an idiot, but also help you fix whatever you broke while being an idiot. I drove a paid-off truck. Nothing fancy. A 2015 Ford Ranger I bought, used with 60,000 miles. Previous owner was some contractor who'd used it for hauling materials, but maintained it religiously. It had some dents in the bed, and the paint was faded on the hood, but mechanically it was solid. I could throw my mountain bike in the back, haul lumber when needed, and not worry about it getting dinged up in parking lots. Insurance was cheap, registration was cheap, and it ran forever on basic maintenance. My dad approved, which meant something. He'd taught me that vehicles are tools, not status symbols. The guys dropping 60 grand on pickup trucks they never load with anything except groceries were idiots in his book. Had a solid 401k going, maxing out employer match, putting in an extra 5% beyond that. I'd seen too many of my dad's construction buddies hit 60 with nothing saved, still swinging hammers because they couldn't afford to retire. Started contributing from my first paycheck and never looked back. Lived below my means, avoided lifestyle inflation when I got raises, kept my expenses low. Wasn't trying to impress anyone with expensive dinners or designer clothes. My wardrobe was basically jeans, work shirts, and a couple nice button-downs for client meetings. I spent weekends either mountain biking or working on home improvement projects. There's this trail system about 40 minutes west of Denver, with hundreds of miles of single track. I'd gotten into it a few years back when a coworker invited me along. Bought a decent hardtail bike used off Craigslist, upgraded components as I went. Something about being out in the mountains, just me and the trail, cleared my head better than anything else. No phones, no emails, just technical writing that demanded complete focus. Hit a rock garden wrong and you're eating dirt. Pay attention or pay the price. The home improvement stuff was ongoing. There's always something to fix or upgrade when you own a place. Replaced the water heater myself after the old one started leaking, following code requirements and getting it inspected properly. Upgraded the electrical panel because the previous one was maxed out, and I wanted to add some outlets. Insulated the attic better after my first winter heating bills were brutal. Each project taught me something new and increased the value of my place. I'd been dating Amber, 26 female, for 4 years. Met her through mutual friends at a housewarming party. She worked in retail management for a clothing store at the mall, one of those trendy places that plays music too loud and charges way too much for jeans. The kind of store where a basic t-shirt costs $80 because it has a logo on it. She'd worked her way up from sales associate to assistant manager over a few years, seemed proud of the progression, even though the pay was mediocre and the hours sucked. She was pretty in that high-maintenance way. Always had her hair done, nails perfect, makeup on point even for grocery runs. Had this infectious laugh that made other people want to laugh along. For the first couple years, things were genuinely good. We'd do normal couple stuff, dinner and movies, hiking occasionally, when I could convince her it wouldn't ruin her hair, road trips to visit her family in Nebraska. She seemed content with the low-key lifestyle I preferred. Looking back, I can see how things started shifting around year 3. Small things at first, barely noticeable. She'd make comments about my boring weekend plans when I'd mention mountain biking or home projects. Started comparing our relationship to her friends' relationships. How so-and-so's boyfriend took her to fancy restaurants every weekend. How another friend's guy surprised her with spontaneous trips. The implication being I wasn't measuring up somehow, even though those guys were usually broke and borrowing money by month's end. She started spending more time with her coworker friends, particularly this woman Kelsey. Coming home later, being vague about her day when I'd ask Kelsey was a major influence. Single, constantly jumping between relationships, always had some drama brewing. The kind of person who treated dating like a competitive sport and couldn't understand why anyone would settle down before 30. She'd been through probably 6 relationships in the time I'd known her, each one ending in spectacular fashion, with her playing the victim, despite usually being the one who'd cheated or created drama. Every time Amber spent a girls' night with Kelsey, she'd come back with new ideas about what our relationship was missing. We weren't spontaneous enough. We didn't go out enough. Other couples were more adventurous. Other couples kept things exciting. Never mind that those exciting couples usually broke up within 6 months, or that Kelsey herself couldn't maintain a relationship longer than a few months. The grass was always greener in Kelsey's world, and she made sure everyone knew it. Amber had started floating ideas about keeping things fresh and not getting too comfortable. Red flags I ignored because I thought we were solid. She'd mention articles she'd read about couples who stayed together long-term, how they all had to work at it and keep the spark alive. I'd suggest date nights or weekend trips, but apparently that wasn't the kind of excitement she meant. Something else was brewing, but I couldn't put my finger on it. We'd talked about moving in together eventually, maybe getting engaged in the next year or two. I thought we were on the same page. Building towards something permanent, she'd hint about ring shopping, send me screenshots of dresses she liked, talk about what kind of wedding she wanted. Small, she'd say. Just close friends and family. Nothing crazy expensive. I was saving for a ring. Had been for months. Waiting for the right moment. Shows how much I knew. Then came that Tuesday night in March that changed everything. I got home from work around 6:30 p.m. Same as always. Traffic on A25 had been a nightmare. Some accident near the Spear exit backed everything up for miles. Sat there for 45 minutes barely moving, listening to talk radio drone on about city council debates over zoning changes. Finally got moving again, only to hit another backup at Alameda. By the time I pulled into my parking spot, I was drained and ready for a quiet evening. I walked into the condo to find Amber sitting on my couch with this weird, serious expression, not angry, not sad, just determined, like she'd been rehearsing something and was ready to perform. She'd positioned herself in the center of the couch, hands folded in her lap, wearing what I'd later recognize as her important conversation outfit. Nice jeans and a sweater that probably cost more than my entire outfit, including shoes. She opened with those 4 words that never lead anywhere good, and I knew immediately this wasn't going to be about vacation plans or what to have for dinner. I set my laptop bag down and sat across from her in the recliner, waiting for whatever bomb was about to drop. She took a deep breath like she'd been rehearsing this, then launched into this whole speech about thinking a lot about us lately, about where we were headed, about how she loved me but felt like we got together so young. She was only 26, hadn't really experienced life yet. The whole monologue had a prepared quality to it, like she'd practiced in front of a mirror, or maybe workshopped it with Kelsey over multiple coffee sessions. I stayed quiet, waiting for the actual point. Experience told me interrupting would just drag this out longer. Then she dropped it. She thought we should try an open relationship. Just for a while, nothing serious with other people, just seeing what else was out there. She threw in this bit about how lots of couples do it, and it actually makes their relationships stronger, which sounded like something she'd read in a magazine article or heard from Kelsey. The whole thing felt scripted, rehearsed, like she'd been building up to this for weeks. I sat there processing. 4 years together, and she wanted to test drive other options while keeping me as a safety net. The disrespect was stunning in its casualness. She was asking permission to cheat, as if it was some kind of relationship growth strategy. But I kept my face neutral, didn't give her the reaction she was probably expecting. Part of me wanted to blow up, tell her to leave immediately, end it right there. But another part was curious to see where this was going, what exactly she'd planned. When I asked if she already had someone in mind, her face flushed immediately. Dead giveaway. She tried claiming it wasn't about one specific person, but I pushed and she finally admitted there was this guy Kyle, who came into the store sometimes. They'd been talking, there was this connection, but she hadn't done anything yet because she wanted to discuss it with me first. How noble she wanted my blessing before jumping into bed with retail customer Kyle. I made her spell out exactly how this would work. She got animated describing the rules. They'd be honest with each other, nothing serious. They'd still prioritize their relationship. They'd still do regular date nights. She'd clearly thought this through, probably discussed it extensively with Kelsey, who'd convinced her this was totally normal and healthy. The whole framework felt borrowed, like she was pitching someone else's idea. When I agreed, her eyes went wide. She clearly hadn't expected that response. Probably thought I'd either refuse and beg her to stay, or reluctantly agree then sit home moping while she had her fun. The relief on her face was obvious. She'd gotten permission for what she wanted to do anyway. But then I added my condition. What works for her works for me. Completely equal. I watched the color drain from her face in real time. She hadn't actually thought about me dating other women. In her mind, this was about her exploring while I maintained our relationship, keeping the home fires burning while she went on adventures. The idea of me actually participating in this open relationship hadn't been part of her plan. She agreed, though, because what else could she do? She just spent 20 minutes explaining why this was healthy and normal. Couldn't exactly back out now without admitting the whole thing was just about her wanting to sleep with Kyle guilt-free. I asked when we'd start, and she seemed surprised I was ready to begin immediately. Thought I'd need time to process or adjust to the idea? Nope. If we're doing this, let's do it. No point dragging out the inevitable. Her discomfort was palpable. This wasn't how she'd envisioned the conversation going. She'd wanted my reluctant acceptance, not my enthusiastic participation. That night, I texted Vincent and laid out the whole situation. His response was immediate and predictable. She was asking permission to cheat. When I told him I'd said yes, he went quiet for a minute before asking why. I explained my reasoning. I was going to show her exactly what she was throwing away. He laughed, that low chuckle that meant he approved of the strategy and offered to be my wingman that weekend. I'd probably take him up on that. The next few days were weird in that forced normal way. Amber was suddenly super affectionate, probably feeling guilty or trying to reassure herself she'd made the right choice. She cooked dinner twice, something she rarely did since she considered cooking my thing, and both times made elaborate meals with recipes she'd clearly found online, specifically for the occasion. She initiated intimacy more than usual, kept telling me how much she loved me, how this was going to be good for us, how much stronger we'd be afterward. The whole performance felt desperate, like she was trying to convince both of us this was a good idea. I played along, acted normal, but emotionally, I'd already checked out. Something shifts in your brain when someone tells you they want to explore other options. You can't unhear it, can't pretend it didn't happen. Once that door opens, it never fully closes. Some essential trust gets broken, some fundamental understanding of your value to them gets shattered. She'd effectively told me I wasn't enough, that she needed to see what else was available before committing fully. How do you come back from that? Thursday night, she told me she was going out with Kyle on Friday. Dinner and a movie, she said, watching my face carefully for a reaction. She looked nervous, like she expected me to blow up or change my mind. I just said cool. Have fun. Her confusion was obvious. This wasn't the script she'd expected. Where was the jealousy? The attempt to change her mind? The last-minute backpedaling? When she asked what I was doing Friday, I told her Vincent and I had plans going to check out that new brewery downtown, probably hit up a few bars after. Watch the game. Her discomfort increased visibly. She couldn't say anything since this was her idea, but clearly she'd expected me to sit home alone while she went on her date. Friday came and I watched her get ready for her date with Kyle. She spent 2 hours on hair and makeup, going through outfit changes like she was preparing for a photo shoot. Tried on probably 6 different dresses before settling on her favorite, the black one she usually saved for fancy occasions. Full makeup, hair perfectly styled, new perfume I didn't recognize. The whole production was revealing. She was putting in effort for Kyle. She hadn't put in for me in months. When she finally left, she kissed me goodbye with this weird mix of guilt and excitement, like she was asking permission one more time. As soon as her car pulled out, I called Vincent. He picked me up 20 minutes later in his truck, grinning like we were about to pull off a heist. We didn't actually go to any bars. Instead, we hit the climbing gym, something I'd been wanting to try for months. Spent 3 hours learning to boulder, working our way up progressively harder routes, laughing every time one of us fell off and hit the crash pads. My forearms were burning by the end, fingers raw from gripping holds, but it felt incredible. Pure physical challenge that required complete mental focus. No room to think about Amber or Kyle or open relationships when you're trying to figure out how to reach the next hold without falling. After climbing, we grabbed pizza and wings at this place near the gym. Sat there deconstructing my relationship, Vincent asking questions that made me realize how many red flags I'd ignored. How long had Amber been distant? When did the criticism start? When did she stop making effort? The answers were depressing. Probably 6 months of slow deterioration. I'd been too comfortable to notice. I posted a few photos to social media throughout the night. Action shots from the climbing gym, food pics, group selfie with Vincent and some people we'd met while climbing, made sure I looked like I was having the time of my life. Which honestly, I kind of was. No drama, no stress, no worrying about whether my girlfriend was currently sleeping with retail customer Kyle. Just a solid guy's night doing something active and fun. Got home around 11 p.m. Amber wasn't back yet. I took a long shower, letting the hot water work on my sore muscles. Watched some TV, scrolled through some climbing videos to see if I'd been doing the techniques right. Went to bed around midnight. She came home around 1 a.m., slipping into bed quietly, probably trying not to wake me. I pretended to be asleep, didn't engage, heard her sigh heavily a few times, like she wanted me to wake up and ask about her night. I kept my breathing steady, faking sleep. Saturday morning was awkward. She was weirdly quiet over coffee, clearly waiting for me to bring up her date. I finally asked how it was, and she gave this vague answer. It was good. It was fine. Then asked about my night with obvious forced casualness. I told her about the climbing gym, how it was awesome, how I'd definitely be going back mentioned, meeting some cool people who did regular climb nights. Her expression tightened immediately when I mentioned meeting people. She asked if I met any women there, trying to sound casual but failing completely. I told her I met lots of people. It was a social activity. She didn't like that at all. I could see her doing the mental math, realizing I hadn't sat home alone being jealous while she was out with Kyle, that I'd had actual fun, met new people, built new social connections. This wasn't part of her plan. The next 2 weeks followed a similar pattern. Amber would go out with Kyle once or twice a week. Dinner, movies, whatever retail customers do on dates. Each time she'd come home acting weird, either overly affectionate or distant and moody. Meanwhile, I was building a whole new life, climbing gym twice a week minimum, usually meeting the same group of regulars who'd welcome me into their crew. Joined a recreational volleyball league that played Wednesday nights. Started saying yes to every social invitation I'd been turning down for years because I'd been prioritizing couple time with Amber. Turns out when you're actually available and not spending all your free time with a girlfriend, life gets pretty interesting. The volleyball league alone introduced me to a dozen new people. Engineers, teachers, bartenders, a mix of ages and backgrounds united by liking volleyball and not taking it too seriously. We'd play for an hour and a half, then hit the bar next door for food and drinks, laughing about bad plays and planning next week's lineups. One of the women there, Jessica, Invited me to a hiking meetup she organized monthly. Group of about 15 people who'd meet Saturday mornings to hit various trails around Denver. I said sure, why not? Showed up that Saturday to find a cool group of outdoorsy types, most around my age, all genuinely friendly and welcoming. We tackled an 8-mile loop with decent elevation gain, stopped for lunch at the summit, took photos with the mountain views behind us. Posted those photos online. Mountain views. The group of smiling hikers, me looking genuinely happy and healthy. Amber saw them, asked who Jessica was. I told her she was a friend from volleyball. Amber pressed, girlfriend friend or friend friend? I reminded her we were in an open relationship, so it shouldn't matter. That shut down the conversation, but I could see it eating at her. Over the next week, I noticed her mood deteriorating. She'd snap at little things that normally wouldn't bother her. Seemed distracted constantly. Started checking my phone when she thought I wasn't looking. Scrolling through my messages and social media. The insecurity was building. The reality of the situation she'd created finally sinking in. 3 weeks into this experiment, she came home from a date with Kyle, looking genuinely upset. I was working on my laptop, planning my next camping trip, barely looked up when she walked in. She stood there clearly wanting me to ask what was wrong. I eventually gave in and asked. Kyle was being weird, she said. He kept asking if they were exclusive, seemed bothered by her having a boyfriend. When she explained their open relationship situation, he'd been less than thrilled. Said he didn't want to be someone's side piece. The irony was delicious. Kyle had standards, apparently. Didn't want to be the guy she was cheating with while she maintained a safety net boyfriend. I almost laughed but managed to keep my face neutral. I told her that sucked and went back to my laptop. She seemed shocked I wasn't more sympathetic, wasn't offering to help her figure out her Kyle problems. She actually said it out loud. We're supposed to support each other. I looked at her like she'd grown a second head. We're in an open relationship, I reminded her. We're supposed to be exploring other options. That's what she wanted. Supporting each other through relationship problems with other people wasn't part of the deal. She snapped that she thought we'd grow together while experiencing other people. I pointed out it sounds like she's experiencing Kyle having boundaries. That didn't go over well. When she asked where I was going next weekend, I told her about the camping trip. That hiking group was doing an overnight in Rocky Mountain National Park. She asked if Jessica would be there. I confirmed she would, along with about 15 other people. Amber's face went through several emotions: jealousy, anger, helplessness. She asked if Jessica and I were just friends. I gave her the same answer she'd given me about Kyle. Does it matter? That question landed hard. She realized she'd created a situation where she had no right to be jealous, no grounds to demand answers, no leverage to control what I did or who I spent time with. The rules she'd established applied equally to both of us, and she was discovering she didn't like how that felt. She admitted quietly that she'd thought I'd have trouble meeting people, expected I'd be too reserved, too awkward, too attached to our relationship to actually put myself out there. Translation, she thought I'd sit home alone while she had her fun with Kyle, waiting patiently for her to finish exploring and come back to me. She'd underestimated how easy it is for an employed, stable guy with his own place to meet people when he's actually trying. When I told her I didn't have trouble at all, she looked like she might cry. Said this isn't how this was supposed to go. I asked how it was supposed to go and she couldn't answer. Just repeated that she didn't know. Not like this. This wasn't the plan. I pointed out she wanted an open relationship, and now we had one. Asked what the problem was. She tried explaining that I was never home anymore, always out with my new friends, acting like I didn't care about us. I reminded her I care about us exactly as much as someone in an open relationship should, which is to say I care, but not exclusively. That's the whole point, right? She had no response to that logic. 1 month in, things came to a head. Got home from work on a Wednesday to find Amber on the couch with that same determined expression from before. Here we go again. She wanted to end the open relationship thing. It wasn't working. We were growing apart instead of together. This wasn't what she wanted. I just said, huh? Waiting for more. She seemed frustrated I wasn't jumping at the chance to close things back up. She wanted me to say I missed how things were, that I wanted to be exclusive again, that I'd been miserable this whole time, but I hadn't been. I told her honestly, I'm in the best shape I've been in years. I've got a solid friend group. I'm doing activities I enjoy. My life is pretty great right now. The confusion on her face would have been funny if it wasn't so sad. She asked about us, about our relationship. I asked what about it. She wanted to go back to how we were before all this. I told her flat out, I don't miss how things were. When she felt trapped and wanted to see other people, not really interested in returning to that dynamic. She tried claiming that wasn't fair, that she'd been confused. just needed to know she wasn't missing out. I pointed out she now knows. That didn't help her case. She admitted Kyle had been a mistake, that she should have just talked to me about her feelings instead of asking for an open relationship. Probably true, I agreed, but didn't change anything. She begged to go back to normal. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw someone who'd been willing to throw away 4 years because a customer at her store flirted with her and her single friend convinced her the grass was greener. Someone who'd expected me to be her backup plan, waiting patiently while she test drove other options. Someone who only valued what we had after watching me stop valuing it. I told her she can't unring this bell. She asked for space to explore other options, got her wish, and in the process showed me exactly how she viewed our relationship, as something holding her back. I explained that I actually like my life better now. Better than being with someone who sees me as a safety net while they test other options. She kept pushing, saying people make mistakes, and we could work through this. I told her we probably could, but I don't want to. The moment she asked for an open relationship, she showed me what I really meant to her, and that's not enough anymore. She started crying for real, asking if 4 years meant nothing. I explained she was done a month ago when she had Kyle lined up. I'm just catching up. She tried claiming she never slept with him, like that mattered. The intent was there, I pointed out. She was ready to throw us away for something new and exciting. I told her she needs to move out. My condo, my name on everything. Time for her to find somewhere else. She looked shocked, asked where she was supposed to go. I suggested Kelsey's place. She's single, lots of room for exploring and experiencing life. Low blow, but I was done being nice. She tried one more angle, thought I'd wait for her. And there it was, the truth. She'd wanted her Kyle adventure with the security of knowing I'd be there when it inevitably fell apart. I told her I don't wait for people who don't choose me first. She moved out that weekend. Kelsey helped her pack, shooting me dirty looks the entire time like I was the villain in this story. I stayed out of their way, took Max for a long walk around the neighborhood. Max was my 3-year-old Labrador. Got him as a puppy right after buying the condo. Best decision I ever made. That dog had been my constant companion through everything. Always happy to see me, never asking for open relationships or making me feel inadequate. When we got back from the walk, the apartment was quiet. All her stuff gone. Her key on the kitchen counter with a note saying she was sorry, she loved me, please reconsider. I threw the note away and scheduled a locksmith for the next day. Not because I thought she'd come back uninvited, but because it felt like the final step, new locks, new chapter, clean break. Vincent came over that evening with pizza, asked how I was holding up. Honestly, better than expected. He noted how she'd really thought I'd just wait around for her. Apparently that was the plan. We spent the evening talking through everything, him helping me process, making sure I was actually okay and not just performing okay. The next few weeks were peaceful in a way I hadn't experienced in months. No drama, no checking in, no explaining my schedule, no managing someone else's insecurities. I went where I wanted, when I wanted, started cooking more elaborate meals just for myself, trying new recipes, having friends over for dinner parties. My place felt like mine again, instead of a shared space where I had to consider someone else's preferences for everything. Amber texted occasionally, usually late at night, missing me, wanting to talk, admitting she made a huge mistake, claiming Kyle was nothing compared to me, begging for another chance. I didn't respond to any of them. What was there to say? She'd made her choice, lived with the consequences, and now wanted a do-over. Life doesn't work that way. Actions have consequences. Choices have outcomes. She chose wrong, and now had to live with that. 2 months after the breakup, I ran into her at the grocery store. She looked rough, thinner, tired, dark circles under her eyes like she hadn't been sleeping well. We exchanged awkward hellos, and she tried getting into a conversation about us, about how she'd been thinking about our relationship constantly, how what we had was real, and that has to count for something. I told her it did count, past tense. She pushed. People get back together all the time. I explained people who break up over normal things maybe, but not people who break up because one person wanted to test drive other options while keeping the other as a backup plan. She called that cruel. I called it honest. She tried the whole speech about being stupid, listening to Kelsey, thinking she was missing out when she wasn't. Everything she needed was with me, she claimed. I pointed out she didn't think that until she saw me stop needing her. That's not love. That's loss aversion. She was upset about losing her safety net, not about losing me. Specifically, I laid it out clearly. She'd watched me be a stable, reliable partner for 4 years. Supported her, built a life with her, was there consistently. And she threw it away because some retail customer flirted and Kelsey convinced her there was something better out there. The only reason she wanted me back was because Kyle wasn't interested in being her side piece, and she realized I wasn't sitting around waiting to be her backup plan. She kept pushing, but I ended it. Told her she doesn't respect me, and I'm not interested in being someone's consolation prize. Grabbed my cart and walked away. Heard her crying, but didn't look back. That needed to be the final interaction. 6 months later, life was unrecognizable in the best possible way. The hiking group had become my main social circle. Traveled all over Colorado, hitting different trails every weekend. Maroon Bells, Hanging Lake, Conundrum Hot Springs, the Flatirons. I'd gotten into outdoor photography, started documenting our trips with a decent camera I'd bought used. The photos were getting good enough that I'd sold a few prints online through a small Etsy shop I'd set up. Not making real money, but enough to cover my climbing gym membership. Jessica and I had started dating casually a couple months prior. Nothing serious yet, just seeing where it went naturally. She was patient, funny, had her own career as a graphic designer, her own apartment, her own money. Never once asked for an open relationship. Never compared me to her friends' boyfriends. Never made me feel like I wasn't enough. We just enjoyed each other's company without drama or games or tests. First time she came over, Max immediately brought her his favorite toy, something he'd never done with Amber dogs know quality people when they meet them. She spent an hour playing fetch with him in the backyard while I grilled steaks. Later told me she could tell a lot about a person by how they treat animals and how animals respond to them. Max clearly approved of her, which counted for something. I took Jessica to Sunday lunch at my dad's place. They spent 2 hours talking about photography techniques and composition theory while I grilled steaks and vegetables. My dad texted me later that night, just 4 words. She knows her stuff, high praise from a man who's suspicious of everyone by default and rarely approves of my choices. I learned more about myself in those months than in the previous decade. Learned I'm stronger than I thought, that I have people in my corner who'll show up when needed, that sometimes the best thing you can do with toxic people is cut them out completely and build something better. That settling for someone who views you as adequate rather than essential is a mistake. That you teach people how to treat you, and I'd been teaching Amber it was okay to take me for granted. Kelsey called from an unknown number about 6 months post-breakup. Calling about Amber, she said. Not interested, I told her. She pushed. Amber wasn't doing well. Really not well. Lost her job, moved back with her parents, barely left the house. I asked why she was calling me about this. Amber needs closure, needs to talk to me, Kelsey claimed. I reminded her she got closure at the grocery store when she cried, and I walked away. Kelsey called me cold. I pointed out what's actually cold is convincing someone in a happy relationship that they should see other people. Called her out directly. She did this, planted these ideas, told Amber she was missing out, asked her to own her part in destroying a 4-year relationship because she can't stand seeing friends happy when she's alone. She tried deflecting, but I cut her off. Whatever's happening with Amber is between her and her choices. Not my problem anymore. Hung up and blocked the number. Jessica asked if that was ex drama. I confirmed it was just the ex's friend trying to guilt trip me. She asked if I was good. I was great, and I meant it. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.